Today's topic, Insurance 101 for physicians in training. We cover it all. You're probably thinking we were just going to cover maybe disability and life insurance. No, we have everything from health insurance to umbrella insurance to, of course, life insurance, disability insurance, auto insurance. Yeah, we're going to walk through them all. We're going to also add some things in there that you maybe not even expect to be covered with insurance, like estate documents, or how about this one, identity theft protection. Yeah, we're going to cover it all. So stay tuned. That's coming up next. First main topic, health insurance. That's right, we're going to start with health insurance. So what are you looking for in health insurance? I usually try to simplify health insurance to two categories. Do you want the Rolls-Royce plan or the high deductible health plan that also probably gets us an HSA? What's the difference? As a physician, I always say, I assume that you have some idea of how health insurance works. But what we're looking for here is on that Cadillac plan, it's usually going to look something like this. You're going to have higher premiums. It's going to cost more, right? You're paying more out of pocket for this Rolls-Royce. But ideally, with that higher premium comes lower out-of-pocket cost, whether this is in the form of what we call copays, whether this is co-insurance, whether this is deductibles, whether this is your max out-of-pocket. Maybe it's even something related to the prescriptions you're buying. But the goal here is you're going to pay more to have a stronger plan that hopefully keeps more money in your pocket as costs accrue. So in this example, if you know you're going to have a year where maybe health costs are going to go higher, I usually say the most simple example here is, hey, we're going to have a baby this year. That's a good one. Unfortunately, they don't give us a heads up on when we might break our leg or need a surgery. That'd make it a lot easier. And then on the other side of it, you have the high deductible health plan. So what's the difference here? Well, on a high deductible health plan, you're likely to pay lower premiums, right? You're going to pay a little bit lower out of pocket for that initial premium. But the downside is you usually have to, what I say, self-insure a little bit more at the start. Usually this is in the form of a deductible, co-insurance, co-pays, and then always keep an eye on that max out of pocket. That's one of my main things that I always look for is keep an eye on that max out of pocket, because no matter how crazy of a health year you have, knowing your max out of pocket is your true worst case scenario, assuming you're staying in network, which I hope you are. So keep an eye on that. And then usually if you buy a health insurance policy through the exchange, sometimes this doesn't pertain, but for the most part, if you have a high deductible health plan, it should also be HSA eligible. HSA stands for Health Savings Account. Just make sure it is HSA eligible. Why do we love the HSA? Well, it's a triple tax benefit. So it's a little account that you can put money into. Sometimes your employer will also put money into it, get you to use this plan. But with this HSA, this health savings account, you get a tax deduction. It's tax deferred while it's in there. And then if you use it for qualified medical expenses coming out, it's also tax free. So triple tax benefit. And today, a lot of these HSAs also offer investments inside of them. Investing inside of your HSA can make sense in a lot of cases if you are in the main strategy that we like, in the idea of put the money into the HSA, but continue to pay your current ongoing expenses out of pocket. Put the money into your HSA, invest it, and then the goal is to let that do its thing for compounding interest for many years, if not many decades, and then utilize it as we get older. That's one of the big benefits to that HSA and what we call that triple tax benefit. Few intros there on health insurance. Take some time for this. I'm always amazed at open enrollment by how many people fly through it or work last year, it should work again this year. Take your time, review your health plan, review it with your spouse or significant other, see what benefits they may have, make sure that your plan makes the most sense for you and your family. Maybe talk to HR, review those packets on what the max out of pocket might be. Are your primary physicians covered? Are your prescriptions covered? Whatever you need, take some time on it. This is a big decision, and a wrong decision can be extremely costly, right? So take your time, understand your health insurance options, see if you can utilize that HSA. But first things first, review that health insurance for your insurance overview here. Next up, dental and vision insurance. Two insurances that just don't get that much love out there. So we're going to give them a few minutes of glory here. Really just want to bring to your attention, you usually have to opt into these, right? When you go through open enrollment, if you don't mark anything, they might assume that you don't need them. And maybe you don't need them, right? If you have perfect vision and your entire family has perfect vision, maybe you don't need vision insurance. Now, here's the thing. Vision insurance is usually pretty cheap, right? It's usually a couple bucks, really no matter what the size of your employer is, and maybe it's completely free. So things like that, you got to keep an eye on. Dental insurance, I hope you're going to see your dentist at least twice per year. So dental insurance, for the most part, fits a lot of people's insurance overview. We want that added in there. Could you self-insure? You could, but usually dental insurance is pretty low cost. And who knows, if a cavity pops up or something, you need a cap here or there, it's gonna be good to have dental insurance. But just keep in mind, you gotta opt into these and make sure you understand your benefits. The one tricky part about dental insurance is there's usually a max benefit. So if you have a crazy year where you were just eating all the sugar, you forgot to brush before bed, you weren't flossing, you were not doing good dental hygiene, and you have all these costs that pop up on cavities and caps, there's usually a max. And this can sometimes, definitely not more than that, but keep that in mind. We want to at least give a quick little shout out to dental and vision so that they're not missed in that overall insurance overview for you to take advantage of. Next up, life insurance. If you scroll down to the blog post, we'll put a better description in there, the difference between term insurance and permanent life insurance. For the most part, for like 99.99% of cases, you want term life insurance. Can permanent life insurance make sense in some circumstances? It can, but that is very fine-tuned planning and strategies that probably is not getting sold to you by some random person that you just met for the first time, right? If your advisor that you've worked with for many decades, you know, the tax planning, the estate planning, and why you want to have this in place, maybe it can make sense. But for the bulk of us, like 99.99, you want to lean towards term life insurance, all right? So I'm just going to start with that to make it a little bit more simple. Now, who needs life insurance? Well, I usually summarize it as this. If someone relies on your income, you need life insurance. Now, I also put in one other caveat there. If someone co-signed on your student loans, which again, very common topic, right, in the physician world, you probably also need to get some life insurance because if someone co-signed on your loans and you pass away, they're still responsible for that debt. So that's kind of one of those tricky parts you got to keep an eye on. Only if they co-signed. That's the one thing you got to keep an eye on, especially if we're referring to just federal loans. So if someone relies on your income, you need life insurance. Maybe that's your spouse, maybe that's your kids, maybe it's you caring for your parents. Do you still send money back home to help family, right? We see this a lot in the physician community by just having a very diverse client base with clients from all over the world, and they want to still take care of their family back in India or Africa. You got to keep an eye on those things too, right? So life insurance can be extremely important on many different levels. The other things to keep an eye on, can you get it through your employer? You probably can. You probably have some good group life insurance. Group insurance, you want to take advantage of all the free stuff. Don't miss out on the free stuff. If you're in good health or much better than average, you might do better adding more on the private market. So you want to look for independent quotes from independent insurance brokers. The other thing you can keep an eye on here is if your health is not very good, and let's just say you go to get some quotes and they're not giving you good ratings, maybe they're giving you something called a table rating, you can always circle back to your employer plan and they likely give you the option to add supplemental coverage without any underwriting, right? Now there's going to be limits. Some of those limits are better than others, but it still could be a workaround for you if health does not look great. So you're looking for those things in the term life insurance. I can't emphasize it enough. You want an insurance broker. I would say broker still sounds like a bad word, but you want an independent insurance broker that can spreadsheet numerous companies. If they can only show you one company, that's not ideal. We don't love that, right? We want to see numerous providers. And also, if you have any underwriting issues, we want them to be able to go to different companies to see maybe they look at this issue or this disorder or this disease a little bit differently than this provider. So let's go this route instead of this route. And that's why you want that independence in there. So life insurance is vital. You want to always take advantage of what your employer is offering, especially on the free side. But if you also need to add more, which you likely do as a physician, I always make the example of even if you just want to cover 10 years of your income, right? You just did all this training, heaven forbid something would happen to you, at least ensure a couple years or a decade, maybe 2 decades of your earnings potential in that life insurance. But when you're going through that number, it can escalate pretty quickly, right? I want to pay off the mortgage. I want to make sure 2 or 3 of my kids can go to college. I want to make sure I leave some money just to get them through that period of grieving where they don't have to think about things. I want to make sure that I pay off any other debts. I want to make sure that I'm covering 5 to 10 years of my salary. All of a sudden, you get into a pretty good number. When we speak to different programs across the country and different medical organizations, I usually say $3 to $5 million of term life insurance should not catch you off guard as a high income earning physician. So life insurance is vital. Do not miss this one and make sure that you're building it appropriately for you, your family, and all the needs that you have there going forward. Next up, disability insurance. I could argue as we sit here right now, and if you are a resident or a fellow, this could be the most vital insurance out of this entire list. And why is that? Well, think about your future earnings potential and what happens if something happens tomorrow and you lost all of that. That is literally what disability insurance covers. Disability insurance is ensuring your future earnings so that you don't miss out on that due to a disability event. That's why disability insurance is so vital. And then to make it even more vital for physicians, the underlying language, which most people have no idea what this means, is extremely vital for physicians. There is a huge difference between something called true ONOC versus any OC to something even in the middle called modified ONOC. You need a true ONOC policy. As we record this video in 2023, there's now only 5 providers that we give that distinction to. So it's pretty slim pickings in the private market. But disability insurance is vital because it is ensuring your future earnings. If you scroll down again to the blog post, we do add some more context on some of the riders and things of that nature, but same rules apply here as what we said for term life insurance. And usually this person can be the same person, but you're looking for an independent broker. You want someone that can spreadsheet all 5 of those providers and walk you through why one is better than the other. And remember, this can be highly specific down to what occupation you're in, what specialty, and then also, when I say specialty, like literally the specialty as a physician. It's not just this broad demographic of, oh, you're a doctor, here's your rating. It literally goes down to your specialty. And then also, it varies by state. And then to make it even more complicated, it is extremely vital to try to get something called a GSI policy, a guaranteed standard issue. This is only available to you while you're in training. And to make that even more complicated, it's not available in all programs. But a GSI policy, especially for our female physicians, might give you access to something called unisex rates. And this is really important because unfortunately, disability insurance is a lot more pricey for female physicians than it is male physicians. So I would say for GSI policies, you're looking for 2 groups that really want to take advantage of this. I can make the case that every physician wants to take advantage of it. But if you are a female, GSI, guaranteed standard issue, is vital. Also though, if you are a male physician with not great health, you also need to lock in this policy before you leave your training. Now, may you add more policies later to supplement that? You might. But this could be your cheapest option for forever as a female, but also this might be your only time to get insured if you have not so great health. And that actually expands really to both males and females, right? This might be your last time to get a very good underwritten policy because they're not doing underwriting. So that's why that GSI policy is so important. Now, to bring it back to the start, how does this come into benefits per se on the employer side? Your employer is likely going to offer you some form of group disability. It is not what you want to cover your entire need, right? So if you're sitting there right now watching this video and you only have group disability and you're a physician, or really any high income earner, that's not gonna cut it. One, the benefits probably aren't that great from a numbers perspective, but they also are not gonna have the best definition of disability. They might have at best a modified ONOC or something called any OC. And what that means is if you can go work in any other field, they're gonna stop paying benefits. So that's saying if you are a physician, but all of a sudden now you can go work at the local gas station and just check out customers, they're not gonna pay you. That's one of those ones where any OC can be extremely dangerous. And then modified ONOC will at least give you a little bit better backing on educational and maybe a true ONOC for 2 years. But physicians, especially if you're using your hands, I always look towards my surgeons here in this example, you need something called a true ONOC policy. And again, there's only 5 providers out there. And if you scroll down to the blog post, we have them listed in there. I don't wanna list them in this video only because sometimes that can change and I don't want the video to go bad because I put in wrong context, but I can always update a blog post. So just scroll down, we'll have them all in there for you. But on the disability front, take the free stuff from your employer. Sometimes you actually want to not take that and get more private ONOC or private disability. The only downside is private disability is a lot more expensive. So it's a case-by-case basis, but for the most part, you're gonna take your free coverage there. Again, if you have any issues getting insurance or you didn't take advantage of that GSI, you might have to circle back and get more supplemental coverage through your employer if they offer it. But again, that's not our favorite because it's not gonna be the best definition of disability, but also probably the numbers aren't gonna meet your entire need depending on your specialty. Or on the private market, you're gonna have a lot more flexibility. You can change employers 100 times and still have that policy and it'll transfer with you. Another big one here is if you are a physician and you're part of the VA offers a lot of great benefits. Disability is not one of them. You in particular need to be looking for a private policy. So keep that in mind if you're sitting here, you're watching this and you're a physician in the VA program. They have a lot of great benefits. Disability is not one of them though. So keep an eye on that one. But disability, probably the most vital. The younger you are, the longer earnings capacity you have, I'm going to continue to move disability higher and higher up that list on the most vital coverages you need. So understand your coverage, make sure you have the proper coverage in place, and then really build around that disability coverage because it's really important. All right, I'm going to combine a few here. So 3 that I want to combine here. Essentially, your homeowner's insurance could also be your renter's insurance if you're renting, auto, and then umbrella. 2 of them I'm going to fly through at the start here. If you scroll down again to the blog post, we do add better context for the homeowner's insurance and renters, and then also the auto. But as I'm sitting here, I hope that you have homeowner's insurance if you own a home. If you're renting, I hope you have renter's insurance. This one is actually missed more than you would think, or they don't have the proper coverage on their contents, meaning like what happens if the entire complex would burn down? Do you have everything properly insured? You know, whether that's your clothes, your electronics. Most people underdo that number because they think it won't happen, but it's pretty cheap to increase that number. So make sure you have homeowners insurance. Make sure that you have good renter's insurance. Make sure you're reviewing those, especially on the homeowner's insurance, because homeowners is going to be a little bit more expensive. Make sure you're reviewing that at least every few years to make sure that, one, everything's properly added, but also things go up in value. So make sure that you also have the proper coverages in place. Auto insurance, you need auto insurance, right? If you own a car, you need auto insurance. So I'm going to throw that on your radar. Same rules apply here on reviewing it. Sometimes we buy these plans, we let them ride out for 10, 20 years, and we never get a second quote. We never review the coverages. Take some time, review that. And the third one on this list is umbrella insurance, which it might not be top of your radar today, but it should be very close to it. And then when you become an attending, it should be definitely in place. But umbrella insurance is just extra liability insurance. So unfortunately, as a physician, I would say you get an extra target on your back. So what does umbrella insurance do? Well, it adds extra liability to your home or renters and your auto policy. So if you get into a fender bender, call it my soccer flop, right? They get into the intersection, they start rolling around and screaming because you had your white coat on. Don't drive with your white coat on. They are going to try to sue you for as much as they can. Now, they still have to go through the process, right? They still have to win. But in this example, the umbrella insurance can add extra liability coverage on your auto. So we're just trying to add in extra protection in case that you are sued and you lose on the personal side. Umbrella insurance is relatively cheap, so we always get that question on, well, does this apply to medical too? Does this cover us on the medical side? Medical malpractice? Unfortunately, no. So remember, this is just on the personal side, property, car, things of that nature, but make sure you have a good umbrella policy in place. This is a staple of every financial plan we build. You need an umbrella policy. It needs to cover at least your net worth. We started at $1 million, so even if your net worth is negative $250,000 because of student loans, still started at $1 million. As you break through those barriers, so as soon as you go through $1 million, we round up to 2, go through 2 million, we round up to 3 million. So make sure you have a good umbrella policy in place. Make sure you have good home and auto in place or renters in there, but those are 3 vital ones that you need to have on your radar. And ideally, they're probably all in place, at least 2 or 3 of those, and then the umbrella is coming in very soon, if not already in place. Ending with 2 heavy hitters. First up, identity theft protection. I know what you're thinking. It won't happen to me. Unfortunately, we're seeing this happen more and more often. We have seen crazy things where clients have had literally mail stolen, and they use that information to essentially take over bank accounts. We have seen a person have their identity stolen, even freezing their credit, and somehow the hacker still unfroze it to get into it. Those are just 2 recent stories that we have had recently. Imagine how many are actually out there if you spread even further out. You need to get some form of identity theft protection in place. There's a lot of good options out there. You want someone to keep an eye on that. The basic form, review your free credit report every single year. Keep an eye on your credit score. The only thing I don't love about the credit score is it's more reactive than proactive, meaning that once you see your credit score going down, something already happened, right? But it's still at least some form of defense that something is going wrong. But being proactive on the credit report, seeing if anything's coming in there. But these credit monitoring companies, that's where they're going to come in and it'll be a little bit more proactive for you on, hey, we got a notification of this, or we got a notification of that. And one of my favorite things to do, which can sometimes be a little bit of a hassle, but freeze or lock your credit reports. If someone cannot get access to your credit reports, they are highly unlikely not going to be able to open up anything large, right? Think about it. When you go to buy a car, what do they run? Your credit report. You go to buy a home, your credit report, personal loan, credit report. If they can't get to those, they can't take out these larger things. Now, can they maybe hack some other things? Bank accounts, of course. But at the same time, you're going to add in one of your best lines of proactive defense by locking your credit reports. There's 3 credit reports in there. You're starting to also see this become a lot easier in a lot of the credit monitoring where they'll say, hey, we can freeze 1 or 2 of them, or maybe all 3. So make sure you have good identity theft protection in place. And then last but not least, you don't really consider this one insurance per se, but I'm gonna say it's insurance overall from a safety, from a holistic side of it. And that's your estate documents. And what I mean by this is for pretty much anyone watching this video, there's 4 documents that you need. You need a will, you need a living will, you need a healthcare power of attorney, you need a financial power of attorney. Those are your 4 essentials. Depending on what state you live in, you may also need a revocable trust, but let's just stick with those 4 essentials. If you're sitting there as a single individual, can you maybe punt for a little bit? Yeah, I get it. But at the same time, I'd also come in and say living will, healthcare power of attorney, financial power of attorney are vital now, no matter what, right? Who's making those decisions for you? Who's helping you through those moments? As soon as we plug in marriage, as soon as we plug in kids, also introduce something called guardians inside of those documents. You need to get these done. I'm very proud to always say I feel like our clients will get them done before their parents, maybe even their grandparents. So make sure you get your estate documents done, but that will round us out here on the overall insurance planning guidelines and rules for our physicians in training. So looking at you residents and fellows, this should give you a great plan of attack from here on out. And there you have it. Insurance 101 for physicians in training, really building that strong foundations for our residents and fellows. You can really argue that this insurance profile applies to everyone, but the goal here is to kind of give you what you're starting to build in that foundation in your training years as a physician, and then things that you can grow on as an attending. So we covered it all. We got our life insurance, we got disability, we got health insurance, identity theft, estate planning. We even stuck in some estate documents here. So we really walked through that total profile. And are there some more unique insurances that might pertain in certain circumstances? Of course there are. This does not cover everything, but this should give you a pretty darn strong foundation. So as always, thanks for hanging out with me for the last 15 minutes or so. If you have not subscribed, now's a great time to subscribe to the channel. You click on this little bell icon, you also get a notification every time we put out a new video. As always, thanks for hanging out, and I'll catch you on the next video.